All right, let's dive in. Today, we're tackling Steven Weinberg.
Ooh, big name.
Definitely a giant in theoretical physics. But, beyond the Nobel Prize and all that jazz, I want to dig a little deeper.
Sounds like fun. Where are we starting?
Let's talk about his work. Unifying the weak force and electromagnetism, that's got to be more than just, like, putting two puzzle pieces together, right?
Yeah, way more. Think of it this way. He showed that these forces, so different in our everyday experience, are actually just two sides of the same coin at super high energies.
Okay, so, like, back in the Big Bang, they were all one thing.
Yeah. Then, as the universe cooled and expanded, they split.
Whoa! Mind-blowing stuff. And this all fed into, like, the standard model of particle physics.
Exactly. It's a framework that describes all fundamental forces and particles, except for gravity, of course.
Always got to have that one exception. All right, rewind. Weinberg, born 1933, New York City, immigrant parents, Jewish family. The story goes, a chemistry set at 16 flipped the switch for him.
Classic science origin story. He went to the Bronx High School of Science.
Oh, really?
Yeah, same graduating class as Sheldon Glashow. Another Nobel Prize winner in physics, by the way.
No way. Two Nobel laureates in the same class? What are the odds?
Crazy, right? So Weinberg, he goes off to Cornell for his bachelor's, then Princeton for his PhD, and his early work is all over the place. High energy, quantum field theory, symmetry breaking, you name it, he was exploring it.
So not just a one-trick pony.
Not even close. Then, boom, cosmic microwave background radiation is discovered, and suddenly he's fascinated by general relativity and cosmology.
The echo of the Big Bang. Who wouldn't be fascinated?
It was like a whole new universe opened up for him. He even started writing his famous textbook, Gravitation and Cosmology, around this time.
So that's the foundation. Then comes 1967. He's at MIT, and GAM, he proposes his model unifying electromagnetism and the weak force. What was the reaction? Was it an instant hit?
Not exactly.
Mhm.
The scientific community is always a bit skeptical at first. Any new theory needs time to, simmer and be tested.
Makes sense. So what convinced them?
Experimental validation. A few years later, they actually started observing the things he predicted.
So the universe itself said, yep, he's right.
Pretty much. And that paper of his on Electroweak Unification became like the most cited work in high-energy physics. It even predicted new particles. The Z boson and the Higgs boson.
Hold on, didn't they discover the Higgs boson, fairly recently? How could he predict that decades earlier?
That's theoretical physics for you. He used his deep understanding of quantum field theory and symmetry.
That's wild. It's like he was peeking into the future of physics. But wait, wasn't there something similar proposed by Sheldon Glashow, the guy from his high school class?
Yep. It's actually a pretty crazy coincidence. Both their theories involve this thing called neutral currents.
And this neutral current thing was key to confirming the whole Electroweak unification.
Totally. Its discovery in 1973 was a huge win for their work.
Okay, so we've got Electroweak unification. The standard model is taking shape. A Nobel Prize on the horizon. Seems like a good spot to pause and regroup. But I have a feeling the story doesn't end there, right?
Oh, not even close. He wasn't the type to rest on his laurels. He even proposed a modification to the standard model in '73 that didn't include the Higgs boson.
Wait, first he predicts it, then he tries to get rid of it. What was going on there?
It shows how intellectually honest he was, always willing to question even his own ideas.
I respect that. Like, hey, I might have been wrong. Let's explore other options. It's the scientific method in action.
Exactly. And this led him to propose something called Technicolor in the '70s, a completely different way to tackle a problem called the hierarchy problem in particle physics.
Ooh, okay. Before we go there, let's unpack that hierarchy problem. What is it?
It's basically this huge difference in strength between the weak force and gravity. Gravity is, ridiculously weak compared to the weak force. And physicists are still trying to figure out why.
So he was already thinking beyond the standard model, even beyond the Higgs boson, to try and explain this.
Always pushing the boundaries.
Yeah.
And right around this time, things take another turn. He moves to the University of Texas at Austin.
Texas, that seems like a jump from the usual physics hotspots.
Right. But they offered him an amazing opportunity to build a top-notch research program.
So not just contributing, but shaping the future of the field. What did he focus on there?
One big thing was renormalization in quantum field theory. It was revolutionary stuff.
Okay, I need a translation. Renormalization, what is it? And why was his work so important?
Imagine you're doing physics calculations and you keep getting infinity as the answer, which, doesn't really work in the real world.
Yeah, things tend to be finite in reality.
Right. So renormalization is a way to get rid of those infinities and actually extract meaningful results.
So he's basically cleaning up the math to make sure it reflects what we see in the universe.
Exactly. And his approach was super elegant and insightful. It led to new ways of thinking about quantum field theory, like effective field theories.
Effective field theories. Lay it on me.
Think of it like having different lenses to view the universe. You need a different lens to see the tiny quantum world compared to the large-scale cosmos.
So effective field theories are like a physics toolkit, different tools for different scales.
Perfect analogy. And his work on renormalization was a key part of building that toolkit.
Wow. From unifying forces to taming infinities to creating these cosmic zoom lenses, Weinberg's career is a wild ride.
It is. And we haven't even touched on his role as a public figure and a science communicator.
Oh yeah, there's a whole other side to his story. All right, let's take a moment to process all this mind-bending physics and then dive into that next chapter.
You know what I find fascinating about Weinberg? He could explain the most complex physics ideas in a way that anyone could understand.
You didn't want to keep it all locked up in academia, right?
Yeah, totally. He thought everyone should have access to the beauty and wonder of science. And his popular science books, like The First 3 Minutes, are a perfect example. He literally walks you through the first few moments of the universe's existence.
I've heard it's a must-read for anyone interested in cosmology, but did he have to, oversimplify things to make it understandable?
Not at all. He was a master at explaining complex ideas accurately without dumbing them down.
That's a rare talent. The first 3 minutes, huh? What was it about that early period that grabbed him so much?
Well, those initial moments after the Big Bang were like a cosmic pressure cooker, incredibly hot and dense, everything unified. It's where all the basic building blocks of matter were formed.
So by understanding those first few minutes, we unlock the secrets of how we got to where we are today.
Exactly. It's like the ultimate origin story. And, he didn't limit himself to just books. He wrote for the New York Review of Books, too.
Oh, really? What kind of stuff did he write about there?
All sorts of things. The nature of science itself, philosophical implications of physics. He was really engaged with the big picture.
So not just the science, but how it impacts society and how we view the universe.
Absolutely. He saw science as a fundamental part of human culture. And he believed scientists had a duty to share their knowledge with the world.
I remember reading about his fight for the superconducting supercollider, that project that got canceled. What was it about that project that he felt so strongly about?
He saw it as the next big step in understanding the universe. It would have been the most powerful particle accelerator ever built, capable of exploring the tiniest bits of matter.
Like a giant microscope for the universe.
Kind of. And, this reminds me of his stance on concealed guns in classrooms at UT Austin. He was very much against it.
Yeah, that was a controversial one.
He argued that allowing guns on campus would create a climate of fear, which is the opposite of what you want in a place of learning.
So he wasn't just concerned with scientific exploration, but also with creating a safe and open environment for learning.
Exactly. He was a man of principle. And those principles extended to his views on religion and politics, too. He was an outspoken atheist and a self-described liberal.
Do you think his scientific background influenced his views on religion?
I think so. He believed the universe was governed by natural laws. To him, there was no need for supernatural explanations.
So he saw science and religion as fundamentally different ways of understanding the universe.
Right. And he didn't shy away from expressing those views. Now, another controversial topic was his strong support for Israel.
Yeah, this one is definitely complex.
He believed Israel was a vital democracy in a region often hostile to those values. And he felt its critics often misunderstood the situation.
So his support for Israel was tied to his beliefs about democracy and freedom.
I think so. And he was very vocal about it, even canceling trips to universities in the UK that boycotted Israeli academics.
He stood by his convictions. Just like with his scientific work, he brought that same rigor and honesty to his personal beliefs, even when it caused friction.
Absolutely. He was a complex and fascinating individual. His book, To Explain the World, where he delves into the history of science, caused quite a stir, too.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that. What was the controversy there?
Some historians of science felt he was judging past scientists too harshly, without considering the context of their time.
So he was viewing them through a modern lens.
In a way, yes. But, it's interesting to consider those different perspectives. It reminds us that history is always open to interpretation.
And even with that controversy, it shows his desire to understand not just the science itself, but the journey that led us here.
He was always connecting the dots, looking for the bigger picture, and that's something I admire about him.
We've covered a lot in this deep dive. His groundbreaking research, his passion for science communication, his unwavering principles, even his controversial views. It's clear he was a multifaceted individual who left a lasting impact.
He truly was a giant, but also a complex and thought-provoking figure.
Speaking of impact, the man racked up awards like it was nobody's business. We've talked about the Nobel Prize, but he also received the National Medal of Science, the Benjamin Franklin Medal, and the list goes on.
His contributions were widely recognized and celebrated, and he made sure his work would continue to inspire future generations. He donated all his papers to the Harry Ransom Center at the University of Texas.
Wow, what a gift. So, when all is said and done, what do you think will be considered his most significant contribution? Not just to science, but to humanity as a whole.
It's got to be more than just the equations and theories, right? I think it's that relentless pursuit of truth, not just in physics, but in everything.
That constant questioning, like never being satisfied with the easy answer.
Exactly. He tackled those big, tough questions, the kind that make your head spin.
And he was willing to change his mind, too. Remember how he moved away from the Higgs boson in one of his later theories?
Oh, yeah. That shows real intellectual honesty. He didn't let his ego get in the way of the science.
More people could use a dose of that, I think. It's okay to admit you were wrong and move on.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, he had this amazing ability to share his knowledge, to explain those complex ideas in a way that made sense.
He took those mind-blowing concepts and brought them down to earth. Through his books, his essays, everything he did.
He truly believed in making science accessible to everyone.
Which brings up a tricky question. We've talked about his views on religion, politics, Israel. How do scientists balance their personal beliefs with their scientific work, with speaking out on those issues?
It's a tightrope walk, for sure. Scientists are people too, right? They have their own values and experiences.
But at the same time, they have to stay objective, especially when they're presenting their research.
Right. It's about being transparent, acknowledging your biases, but not letting them influence the science itself.
Weinberg seemed to navigate that pretty well, even if it stirred up some controversy.
He did. He was a passionate advocate, but he also understood the importance of being honest and open-minded.
A good reminder that science is ultimately a human endeavor.
It is. Driven by our curiosity, but also shaped by our values.
Well, this deep dive has certainly given me a lot to think about. From his groundbreaking discoveries to his complex worldview.
Yeah, he was more than just a brilliant physicist. He was a thinker, a communicator, someone who pushed us to look deeper and ask harder questions.
And that's what we hope you'll take away from this. Never stop being curious, never stop exploring. There's always more to learn and discover. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep on questioning.